Hi, this is Anirban Saha, and you're listening to one new episode of the Global Wildlife Fair podcasts. Today, our guest is Karishma Pradhan. She is a conservationist and she's deeply involved with the Hornbill project. She has dedicated a lot of years into this, working in the north of Bengal. She is one of the co authors of the Hornbills of North Bengal, the Conservation Action Plan. That action plan is made with a lot of stakeholders, and it shows the steps to be taken in the next 15 years. It's a roadmap for the next 15 years to safeguard the hornbills. Her work bridges science, policy making, community stewardship, and is aimed to build a lasting future for the hornbills in that region. Karishma, it's a pleasure having you in this conversation today.
Thank you, Anirban. That was a nice introduction, and thank you for the invitation.
Generally, we do a bit of context setting in this kind of conversation so that people get to know the context within which we are going to explore more and dig in deeper.
Sure.
Delve deeper, not dig in deeper. Dig in sounds good. So tell us why hornbills are more important for the ecosystem. Tell us the kind of work that happened before in north of Bengal, and how did you come to this point? Good context, right?
Sure. I'll try to answer all of them. So you spoke about why hornbills and their role in the ecosystem, right? Apart from just being really majestic birds and having also very deep cultural ties with many communities across globally or where they're found, hornbills have a very important role in the forest and as seed dispersers. A lot of these large seeded tree species are dependent on hornbills for the seed dispersal. So yeah, they're very important, and that helps in the regeneration of some of these species. Um, yeah, so just a background about the organization that I work with. I work with Nature Conservation Foundation, and NCF has been working on various aspects of hornbill ecology in Arunachal Pradesh and other parts of the northeast of India. And Dr. Aprajita Datta, who I work with, she started a PhD on hornbills in the late 1990s, and that's how it all began. So we had a lot of information about hornbills from the Northeast and also a lot of studies that had happened in the Western Ghats. But there was not much information known about hornbills from North Bengal, the northern part of West Bengal. And so in 2017, Nature Mates Nature Club, a Kolkata-based NGO, collaborated with NCF to start the hornbill research and conservation work in North Bengal. And I joined this work in 2019. So that was
a lot of years.
Yeah. It's been a little over 6 years. So yeah, that was the background of the work that started in North Bengal. And yeah, it's taken a lot of years to get here to even actually think and think of designing a conservation action plan for the entire landscape. And for that, the initial years of the work in North Bengal focused a lot on collecting baseline information on hornbill, the population, the distribution across the landscape, studying the breeding biology, trying to understand what are the food trees that are available in the landscape for hornbills. And also, we've identified several roosting sites of hornbills. And just in general, the hornbill, the relationships of hornbills and their habitat. So we kind of focused a lot of the initial years in gathering these baseline information. And that's when we realized that North Bengal as a landscape is very important for 5 species of hornbills. India has nine species of hornbills. Out of the 9 species, we have 5 species that are found in North Bengal. So it made it a very important landscape. Interestingly, North Bengal also forms the westernmost distribution range of the rufous-necked hornbill and the wreath hornbill. And the other hornbills, I just tell the name of the other hornbills that I found there. We have the great, the oriental pied hornbill, the rufous-necked hornbill, the wreath hornbill, and the Indian grey hornbill. So 5 species in this landscape, using the protected areas, the forest surrounding the protected areas, the reserve forest, private forest, a lot of these agriculture fields, like, living close to human settlements. It made a very interesting combination, and that's when we realized that, any conservation intervention for hornbills would require a lot of people, coming together. And yeah, that was what led us to co-developing this conservation action plan with many other stakeholders.
And a lot of people did come together. Like the first time I met you, it was localite Ujwal Rai who got me to that place. You were also there with
Yes,
your
in
army
Latpancham.
of army of researchers trying to study that. So
Yes.
in your entire last 6 years, at what point in time did you decide, or did this moment come before, that this is what you want to do? You want to dedicate a considerable amount of your time, maybe your entire life, to hornbills, because that's a
Yeah.
commitment, right?
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah. I don't think there was any particular turning point. So, yeah, actually, what happened was I was more interested in one of the community-based conservation model of NCF in Arunachal Pradesh called the Hornbill Nest Adoption Program. And I had been following NCF's work, working with the local communities to, protect hornbills and the habitat in Arunachal. And that's when I written to Dr. Prajata that, seeking any opportunity to work with that particular conservation intervention in 2019. But due to several reasons, I couldn't join that particular project at that point. But she offered me an internship in Baksa Tiger Reserve. And those initial few months, I was studying the breeding biology of the great hornbill, where I would spend several hours, up to about 4 to 6 hours, at a distance from, the great hornbill nest, just observing what was happening in the nest, I don't know if I should mention about the breeding biology of hornbills here,
Why
but
not?
yeah, so basically it's a very, very unique behavior where the female, so hornbills nest in large cavities, and they need these cavities in large trees because of their body size. So once a cavity is suitable for nesting, the female enters that particular cavity, cleans it, and she stays inside and seals the cavity opening, leaving just a very, very, like a tiny elongated slit from where the male comes and starts feeding the hornbill, the female. So the female remains inside the cavity, and she lays her eggs, incubates, the chicks hatch, and until the chicks grow and like up to a healthy adult size, the female stays inside the cavity with the chick. And so it takes a good amount of 3 to 4 months, and it's a lot of effort by both the female and the male, and so what we did was we would observe these nests of the great hornbill and try and see how many times the male was coming to feed the female and the chick, what were the food items that it was bringing to the nest, and a lot of these other things. And so when I did this for about 4 or 5 months, I was also living in the forest village. And so in the first half of the day, I would go and, do my field observations. But in the evenings, I would go around in the village and, just interact with people from the village. And it was just like the entire experience. It wasn't a particular point, it wasn't a particular incident, but the entire experience of, having to understand the forest through the lens of the people living there, seeing these great hornbill, nests on an everyday basis. So I think that entire experience just got me hooked, and yeah, I've stayed on.
I mean, you know that even I find the hornbills very fascinating. There are folklores. The birds have been living in harmony with the local people for so long. You can
Yeah.
find folk stories. There are research paper published in Sikkim, in Nagaland. Um, which aspect, except for this birth part, which aspect, say culturally, or how it disperses seeds, which aspect of hornbills bills appeal to you the most?
I think just like, just how majestic they are. I mean, it's just incredible. You can see hornbills every day for the rest of your life and still be fascinated by them.
I
Like
agree.
every single sighting is like, the same feeling that you would have felt when you first saw them in the wild. And
Yes.
of course, their ecological role, the deep cultural ties that they have with many communities, all of that is important, but just something about this bird, just how beautiful and majestic it is. I think, yeah, that for me is definitely what
I
keeps me.
I wish I could high five you right now, but I can't.
Yeah, we could do a virtual high five, I guess.
Yes. I have shared the link for people to download the Hornbill Conservation Action Plan.
Sure.
Uh, this outlines 15 years of what should be done to protect them. Could you give us a very basic overview of its vision and why it's a landmark for the Indian bird conservation landscape?
Okay.
Like we have seen things for
Hmm.
tigers, for vultures, not vultures per se, but this is unique in its own ways.
Hmm. So yeah, so I didn't really cover too much about how the action plan was developed in the first place. So I'll just take you back in the process. So,
Why not?
like I told you, initially we focus a lot on gathering information about hornbills itself and the habitat. But at the same point, we expanded our work from Baksa Tiger Reserve and worked in Natpanchar, started our work in Natpanchar where I first met you. And then we've conducted surveys for hornbill population across different sites in North Bengal. And, when visiting these areas, of course, they seem to be very important for hornbills, but also there was a lot of interest among people to, protect these birds. And it was also a very good point for us at that point where we had gathered some amount of baseline information and we needed to have a roadmap for what was ahead for in terms of research and conservation for hornbills. And so we thought and hornbills, of course, they use a large range of area, right? They're not restricted to only like the so-called protected areas, reserve
Yeah.
forests. They move around. They have like very very large home ranges. So at that point we realized that it's very important to bring together people from across the landscape and find out from people's knowledge, get to understand what people think should be done for hornbills in their from their own experiences and wisdom. And so we had in 2024 a 3-day workshop, the conservation action planning workshop, which was facilitated by Dr. Sanjay Molur and Priyanka Iyer from the IUCN Conservation Planning Specialist Group. So we had about 38 participants, which comprised of representatives from the Forest Department across different divisions in North Bengal. We had people from the local communities from across these key hornbill habitats in North Bengal. Then we had researchers, representatives from various wildlife organizations, from the tea garden estates, nature guides, and also people from the adjoining states of Sikkim and Assam and also Bhutan, because these are the transboundary
Hmm.
landscapes, where North Bengal shares the boundaries with.
Hmm.
So we had all these people come in, and over 3 days, through a lot of intensive discussions, a lot of sharing, we came across we came up with this action plan. And so we collectively outlined a vision which was in the next 15 years, in 2040 we would like to see growing sustainable a population of hornbills. And we wanted to do that by strengthening collaborations between different institutions, between different people, and protecting the existing habitats of hornbills, but also restoring some of the degraded areas which has been degraded due to some past events and things like that. And a lot of the emphasis for the conservation plan is also given to encourage local stewardship for communities themselves to design and think of research ideas, implement conservation interventions, and lead some of these conservation efforts in their own areas. So yeah, that was the larger vision of the action plan, and it was all co-developed by all the people who came together and participated in the workshop.
Karishma, what I could not find very prominently in the action plan is what does success scenario look for you 15 years down the line? Or 200% increase of 2000% in increase, something like we did, not
Yeah,
we,
we've,
but
we've, we've not
something like
mentioned
India.
any. Yeah, we've not mentioned any quantitative number. It's very difficult to give these numbers. A lot of people look at impact and they expect
Exactly. Yeah.
numbers. Um, it's very difficult to do this in the wild, especially when you've not had a very good baseline information about these species, their populations, the distribution, and there's a lot of movement between species across different landscapes also, right? So I mean, we don't know, it's just very difficult to give a number to a success, but what we look at success would probably be more collaborations between people, more local communities taking forward some of the conservation work within their own sites, more more of these areas restored, and increase in better improving habitats for hornbills. I think, yeah, I can't give you a number, but then there are different indicators on how we would probably perceive success to be like 15 years down the line, better improved habitats and things like that. But yeah, very difficult to give a number
The the
or
sense
any
I
figure.
have from you speaking about this is more about collaborating with people, creating
Yes,
awareness, enabling them to take care, maybe.
yes.
So, in that kind of a setup, who are your major, for the lack of any other term, stakeholders? Sorry for using the term.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Well,
different
yeah.
groups of people you have to work
Yes.
with, the different organizations that you have to work with, and to add some masala to the discussion, what are their individual quirks? Probably shouldn't have used the word, but okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's already happening. People are already doing a lot of things. Like, I mean, of the nature guides in Nagpanchar. They've done some amazing documentation of the breeding biology of the rufous-necked hornbill in Nagpanchar, even before any of this research began. People in Baksa they know so much natural history, of hornbills. It's nothing to do with the research. People in their own capacities have always shared a very, very close bond with the spaces that they live in. Hornbills is just an example. So, in terms of like the stakeholders that you mentioned, we work very closely with the forest department. A lot of these good habitat forests are under the protected areas and under the the forest department's jurisdiction. But apart from the protected areas and the reserve forests, we also have community forest, private owned forest, and forests within these tea garden estates, which are also very good important habitats for hornbills. And that is the reason why we've invited officials and representatives across these different groups for the planning workshop. And these are the same people who we would want to collaborate with, and they could collaborate amongst themselves. It's not necessary that NCF or Nature Meets is going to lead and implement all of these action points. The roadmap is there, the action plan is there for anyone to refer to and take up things that is of interest to them. And what is also interesting is there is a lot of other wildlife research organizations working in North Bengal, and we have a lot of overlapping interests. Like for forest restoration, there are a lot of other organizations also working on restoring some of these habitats. And so there is a lot of opportunities for collaborations. Nature education is something that we are interested in, and we've also already started collaborating and working closely with many youth groups. There's one in around Mahananda. Very recently, we did a workshop for a youth group, from who that comprises of members from different fringe villages of the Neora Valley National Park. So these are already very, very motivated members, community members who have a vision, who have their own idea of what conservation and research should look like in their landscape. We are just facilitating some of these things. And so the action plan does not really mean that we are going to be the ones implementing. It's for everybody who's collectively come together to come up, develop this plan, can take action points. I don't know if you've seen in the table we've mentioned like key players against each activity. So those are people who have volunteered to take up some of these interventions. It may not happen immediately, but at some point it falls under their organizations or their communities, larger interests.
When you, sorry for asking a really bad question, when you leave it like this for people to adopt things from the action plan, you're not pinning accountability on any one person for any one goal.
True. And
How
that is where
how
I think that is the role that we will play in trying to go behind to
Okay.
people and trying to nudge people to get things done. And I think, yeah, that's going to be a challenge for us. But it's also, I think, I believe that's also going to be one of the key roles that we would be playing in.
And if it works out, it's going to work out in a fantastic way, assuming every stakeholder will do their best to take it forward. But in
Yeah,
case one or more than one stakeholder do not take it up, what are you going to do
yeah.
then? Nudge,
I
only
mean,
nudge?
no, no. Of course, I mean there are areas where it's not very every activity is not completely dependent on just one or two stakeholders, right? It's a combination of various people coming together, and if that collaboration doesn't work out, there will always be some other. Hopefully, there will always be some other institution or some other person, like individual, who may also be interested to take up some of these things. So it's a very far sided thing, but we are hoping that these collaborations would come through. And I mean, we don't know what the
Hmm.
journey is going to be like. But there was always a lot of interest amongst these people for, not just hornbills, but for conservation in general. And so what we did through the action plan workshop is just to bring them together. But of course, the action plan itself does not only limit ourselves to just the people who participated in the action, like the workshop. It goes beyond the organizations and individuals who came for that 3-day workshop.
So even within the people who participated in the workshop, what was the response like?
What was the response like during the workshop or after the action
Both.
plan was launched?
Feel free.
So during the workshop, it was amazing. We had like crazy amount of discussions. There was such important inputs that we got from people. It was really amazing. And like I told you, we also had members from the transboundary landscape. No, so it was very nice to see how we could collaborate in working with our adjoining states, countries, the local community.
I think there is some internet issue, and I hope she gets to join. I'm getting
I
some signal. Yes, Karishma, you there?
Sorry, yeah, did I'm not sure if
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
mine.
it was your internet. So the
Okay,
last thing I
sorry.
heard was it's very interesting to see how transboundary collaborations work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, just to get these inputs from various people that came from the adjoining states and countries and all of that, but also from the community representatives themselves. They have they know what can be done for their own landscapes, right? And they're the ones who can tell best what is possible and what is not possible in their own sites. And so we have an entire section in the action plan on community stewardship and ownership. And a lot of it has come from the people who live in these landscapes.
You mentioned while you were talking, you mentioned that you're in touch with the youth groups.
Yeah.
How do older residents react to this? Bad question.
React to?
Let's reframe the
These
question.
are youth groups, people from their own villages. They are more than
Yeah,
happy that the young people have taken up, research. I mean, not
yeah.
research as such, but
So in North
taken an
Bengal, the
interest
last
in,
time I went,
yeah,
people were happy to let me into their homes, to the roof, to see the rufous-necked hornbill, and I was like, "ऐसा भी होता है." I mean, even this happens. I'm getting into people's homes, and people are happy that I went to the terrace, and by now,
yeah,
since I go there regularly, they have known my face as well.
yeah.
Do the local communities relate with the bird as much, like across the entire landscape,
Yes,
North Bengal?
yes, yes, they do.
Is it the
Um,
same with Boxer Reserve?
Yeah. So the reasons can vary across sites. In Latpanchar, like the Kirat community who live there have like a deep cultural association with Hornbills. In Buxa, a lot of the Buxa is a very heterogeneous community. We have different ethnic groups like living together. But most of them don't have any such folk tales or cultural associations with Hornbills. But what is interesting is Buxa is very dependent on tourism, and so hornbills are one of the major attraction for bird photographers, bird watchers, bird enthusiasts. And so nature tourism in general in North Bengal has increased since 2012 2015, and hornbills have played a key role in some of these areas, including in Latpanchar and Longtong and Baksa. There are a lot of people who come in. So if not for the cultural ties, hornbills have also helped boost local economy and increase the prospects of bird tourism. So in that ways there is still a relationship between people and hornbills. It may not be for the same reasons, but yeah, in general there is a very positive, so I conducted some surveys in across 10 villages in Baksa and Mahananda. In general there's a very very positive attitude towards hornbills. Of course they're not associated with any conflict as such also, so there's no reason for people not to like hornbills, but then the reasons varied across different villages.
Since you mentioned the cultural aspect of it, the cultural ties, let's take a question that has come in. This question is by Pratiti, and she asks, how much of the conservation action plan stresses on the cultural aspect of it? Is there specific activity or avenues which you are stressing on?
So culture is not something that we can dictate. No, culture is something that has to be innate to the community. And like I just mentioned, apart from a few communities living around Mahananda and some of the other places in North Bengal, at least some of the I'm not assuming that this is true for the entire North Bengal, because I'm yet to visit many of these other areas where hornbills are found. But there are very few communities, including, largely the Kira community, who has had a very close cultural association for hornbills. And so in the action plan, you will see that there is a section in the research, goal also, where we want to document some of these associations. And even in the areas where we want to encourage more community stewardship and ownership, there also we are trying to bring together people's cultural associations, other kind of associations with hornbills, and how to bring all of this together and have this positive positive outlook towards hornbills. There's already people already feel very positive towards hornbills. There's no conflict, like I mentioned before. But yeah, culture is something that we cannot start as external people. We can't go around and telling people to think of hornbills in a particular cultural aspect. But then, like I said, apart from culture, people also associate hornbills for other reasons, including
economic reasons.
Economic reasons, and yeah.
In the document, you mentioned the challenges that you're facing, be it habitat loss and fragmentation and poaching for killing, hunting for body parts for meat. Would you like to highlight the challenges that you have, that you want to tackle?
Yeah, so hornbills across the distribution range are facing a grave threat by habitat loss, no? And we're losing, so they're very specific about their food plants, their nesting tree requirements. They're large in size and they can't build their own cavities. So they need these large trees with already existing cavities. So they're very particular in the nesting behavior, their food, the food that they feed on. And for all of these reasons, they require large tracts of very good, tropical forests. And so the whole challenge of, the habitat loss is a global phenomenon, right? We're losing a lot of good forests to development projects, expansion of highways, conversion of land to, for many other reasons. So in North Bengal also, like I mentioned earlier, there are areas where it used to be good habitats, but then because of past disturbances, they have been degraded for some years. So what we envision is trying to restore some of these areas where we can, whether it is in collaboration with the forest department or the local communities or the tea estates. So these are things that we want to also take up. So this challenge is across the distribution range of all hornbills. Apart from that, in North Bengal, particularly, hunting is not a very large issue. Very like different compared to some of the northeastern states where hunting is a grave threat for hornbills. In North Bengal, we've not had many incidences of poaching and hunting. There have been a few incidences that have been reported in the news, of especially the oriented pied hornbill, but it's not a major threat as such. And that also came out during the action planning workshop, where many of the community members themselves said that they have not known of hornbills being poached or killed, hunted in their own areas. It used to be done earlier from the surveys that I took in these villages before, in the 1970s and 1980s, where before the Wildlife Protection Act came into place. So there was a lot of hunting. Of course, hunting was quite a common thing at that point. But it's completely stopped now, not for hornbills at least. So
1970s is
hunting
a
isn't
really
a
long
major.
time ago.
Yeah. So, I mean, I spoke to a lot of the elderly members from these villages. They were my, I would go and have a lot of long discussions with them. So they would tell me like parakeets, mynas, hornbills. They would specifically, they knew a lot of these nesting trees. They told me about, the stories of how they would climb these trees and take out the hornbill chick and the mother. When they were young, now they were about 70, 80 years when I spoke to them. And
My father's age.
yeah.
In
So
the
yeah,
document, I took a note of a phrase that you have used, and disturbances from unregulated tourism.
yeah.
Would you like to highlight that? I mean, speak a bit more about that. Because
Yeah,
a
so
lot of people go there for tourism. Even I
yes,
started liking hornbills when I went there as a tourist. What are the
yeah,
things we should not do?
yeah, many things. So one is that this is again not particular to North Bengal. It is also prevalent in North Bengal, but in a lot of places we're seeing that this increase in this craze for getting good photographs and good shots. Sometimes you kind of don't understand the line between trying to document the bird, but also try, disturbing the bird and the habitat. And so we feel that tourism is good. We have nothing against tourism. Tourism itself has, like I told you, has contributed to a lot of the local economy. But in the same sense, if there can be some basic guidelines, then people tourists who come into these landscapes can follow, just maintaining a good distance from, especially during the breeding season, because what happens is the male often has to cover fly a large area to collect food for the female, and has to come back and feed the female and the chick. And if there is a lot of people around nest trees, the male may not necessarily want to come and feed, the may want to stay away till there is not much disturbance, and what that can affect the breeding cycle for the female and the chick. And so we just feel that some of these guidelines, if it can be followed, especially from by people who are coming in for tourism purposes, it will be good. Yeah.
um, Tourism purposes just for the bird, or even when you go to the forest. For example, when I went to Baksa, there was a religious festival going on, and people completely disregarded the fact that there are birds. They were
Hmm.
playing music in a high volume stereo sound box, taking selfies, and it was, for the lack of any other term, a ruckus. um, there are different kinds of travelers, right? Different kinds of tourism. Uh,
Yeah.
what is your advice to them when they enter the jungle in general?
Just be respectful of the place, I guess. Just respect it as a land that is shared with wildlife and other people who are living in that area. No, you wouldn't do the same thing if it was your home or the backyard of your home. So why would you do that when you come to an area which is shared not just by wildlife but also people who've been living there for generations? So I guess just being respectful of these spaces, and not just looking at these areas as areas where you would get a good photograph of whatever bird or mammal or anything, or just for recreation. You may come there for leisure and recreation, but it's also like people's homes, and it's also home to many wildlife. So just being more cautious and more respectful, I guess.
You also
Yeah.
mentioned playback birding.
Yeah, so I myself have very contradicting things about playback.
I'm sorry, I'm
Uh,
picking each
I
topic
am,
up.
and again, I want to bring at this point, I want to again reiterate the fact that the action plan was not created by me. It was co-developed
A
by
lot
a
of
lot
people,
of people
yes.
who were there, and so we had
Yeah.
to respect everybody's inputs, and that is what came into this action plan. So it is
Okay.
not a particular individual or a particular organization that created the action plan. It is co-developed by many people. And so we don't know who exactly gave some of these points. But of course, I think in some of the areas, what is happening and what came out through the discussions is call playback is used for even species that are very commonly seen. Usually in areas for birding, you use it only for species that you may have a very, less probability of sighting in the wild. But what is happening is because a lot of tourists come in with this, humongous checklist of birds that they want to see within 3 days. And there's a lot of pressure on the nature guides. And so what happens is they're trying to they're trying to tick things off people's checklist, and because of that they start playing callbacks so that you fatak say you see the bird and then you move to the next bird. And this we feel is not necessary for many of these species that you would see if you come with some time in hand, not necessarily get them through a call playback. And sometimes it's also used during the breeding season, which we think may also affect their breeding behavior, right? So these were the discussions that came up during the action plan and why it was noticed. So at
There are
this,
scientific studies. No, say.
I'll just tell you, if you see in the action plan, there is a component where we have specifically tried to highlight a point where we are hoping that at some point we will also reach out to the bird, photographers, bird watchers who come into this landscape. We're not at all blaming any of the local community members who work as nature guides. It is this urban crowd that is coming in with this this really ambitious checklist, and they come with very little time. If you can visit a place more often, or you can take a longer break or come for a longer duration, you may be able to see many of these. But then they come with these very ambitious plans. And so one of the target points for the conservation action plan is also trying to hopefully reach out to a lot of the urban crowd who come into these
We
spaces.
should. I mean, we should.
We don't
I
know
was
how
talking.
exactly we're going to do that, but we're hoping we will be able to do.
Well, we both are also part of forums, which can come in handy, but that's a
Yeah.
topic of later discussion. I was actually discussing with my brother, and he asked me, "Are there?" He taught me birding, and and it is his rule that Dada do not play the call of a bird, and since he made this a rule, I follow it. Now, I was going through some studies. There are actually scientific studies, which have shown that birds get stressed when such calls are played. Do
Yeah.
you have similar studies in case of hornbills?
Not that I am aware of. No,
Okay.
I don't know.
Your plan, or not your plan, the action
Yeah,
plan
please don't call it my plan.
includes, yeah, in the action plan includes ideas like smart patrolling, nest repair, community festivals, right? Uh,
Hmm.
could you discuss very briefly all the three things and one or two innovations that excite you at a personal level? Since you mentioned that a lot of people have contributed in a lot of
Yeah.
different ways, what excites you? So, smart
Sure.
patrolling, does it have to do with AI,
Smart
sensors,
patrolling.
camera?
No, we were looking more in terms of developing apps like for the tiger sensors they use no these M
Hmm.
stripes and these so-called apps where you download it, and
Hmm.
how we walk transects in the forest, we try and detect the hornbill, and then we observe certain parameters. So just the development of such apps to while going for monitoring, not just by us but also by the forest department patrolling staff, who are very routinely walking these forests. So every time they see a hornbill, or they detect a hornbill call or something, if they can just enter the details of these observations through an
So
app.
a person seeing it, observing it, and sending the data.
Yeah. Like just uploading some of the important parameters that we use for our understanding of the place, and the hornbill distribution and all. So that is something that we that came out through the group, one of the group discussions. We've not really figured out again. The action plan was launched just in July, so we've not really had a lot of discussions about how we're going ahead with many of these plans.
You can
But
also
this is
use
something
some
that
amount
is
of AI in it.
okay. I may reach out to you in that case.
Yeah, where
For
you
some
detect a bird, you say it's a hornbill, and then you process it or you take a note of it. Uh, that was smart patrolling. Nest repair.
yeah. Yeah, so you also asked about what am I personally excited about. It is
Yeah.
the nest repair work. So our
Okay.
colleagues from Nature Conservation Foundation who work in Arunachal Pradesh have been trained in tree climbing and repairing hornbill nests. What happens is, like I told you, hornbills nest in these cavities in large trees, right?
Hmm.
But and they can reuse the nest every year if the nest remains suitable for them. But what happens is, sometimes due to various reasons, the horn will stop using the cavity. It can be because the cavity, the opening reduces, shrinks in size, and the hornbills are not able to enter. It can sometimes be because the cavity floor decays and falls off, or becomes very low for the hornbills to go in. So there are a couple of reasons, and sometimes it's just a vine that comes across the cavity opening that prevents the hornbill from entering. So what our team in Arunachal has been doing is, they've been going to hornbill cavities that have not been used by hornbills for some years, climbing those trees, inspecting the cavities, and trying to
Wow.
understand what is the reason for the hornbills not nesting in these cavities. And so they've repaired many nests over the years, and some of these nests have been reoccupied and reused by hornbills. And very similarly, in North Bengal, also, we have many nests that we've known to be active in the past, when we had started monitoring. But over the years, some of these nests have, not been used by hornbills. So our entire team, we're excited to learn the skills of tree climbing, inspection, and repair from our colleagues from Arunachal. And that is something that we think will help, in increasing the cavity availability for breeding hornbills, and just helping the breeding hornbill population.
I think you need more collaborations there, because I cannot imagine a scientist climbing a tree.
Many scientists climb trees. There are a lot of
Is it?
scientists, a lot of studies. I probably will not do it because I have a very bad lower back problem. But yeah, my other colleagues would are very interested to learn. And of course, we also have people who, I mean, there are a lot of scientists who do it. A lot of the other, the extended part of the research team, the forest department staff, who if they're interested, they may also want to get the frontline staff get interested to learn these skills. I have tried it once, but I couldn't do it. Needs a lot of strength. But yeah,
It would be interesting. There's a
yeah.
question. Do hornbills understand humans and their conservation efforts, like nest repair?
Um, I don't think so. The next year, when they come and see that the size is probably of a considerable size for them to enter, they may just use. They may not
Hmm.
relate it to some human coming and repairing it for them. I don't think so. I don't think they understand. Yeah.
How intelligent is an hornbill? I mean, it's not in the scope of this discussion, but I'm just curious. I mean, how intelligent are they? We know for
I,
sure that crows are very intelligent.
hornbills are very intelligent as well.
How do we know
Many
it?
aspects. I mean, so if like I was telling initially I was studying the breeding biology of the great hornbill. So, like we were looking at the different food items that the male was bringing for the female and the chick. And this is again not known just from our study in Baksa. It's been known from hornbills
They get
across
protein.
range. Yeah, so the protein intake increases after the chicks hatch. Like
So
there's a
it
lot of
is,
animal items that are being fed.
yeah, so it is like a new father Hornbill has learned it from his father and grandfather. I mean, I'm sure the Hornbill doesn't know this is a protein and children need to eat protein.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there must be some mechanism for this transfer of knowledge, but like it is for many other animals, right? But yeah,
In,
and also like yeah, it's very again what we've observed is sometimes hornbills seem to be very like like adapting easily to humans being around. So some of the nests that we have located and that we monitor are close to human settlements. So those hornbills, even when there is a lot of like human activity, they continue to like feed, or they continue to visit the nest. Whereas some of the trees that we have inside, like very deep into the forest, those hornbills are very very like very like aware of our presence, and the minute they sense like some like human activity or something, they will just fly away from the nest. They won't
wreathed
come to the nest
hornbills.
at all. Not just reed, we've had this incidents with oriental pied hornbills, great hornbills, rufous necked hornbills.
Yeah. Um I'll very quickly come back to community festivals. How do you plan to
Okay,
use
yeah,
community
sorry,
festivals?
yeah.
Uh, this is also kind of hovering around the cultural aspect of it.
Yeah, so again, a lot of people had come up with this idea during the planning workshop about celebrating hornbills through these festivals. There was also a lot of discussion about how these festivals need a lot of proper, like, planning and execution. So we've not really decided on what, where, how these festivals are going to be, like, celebrated. But we're hoping that if at all we can come up with a festival that celebrates hornbills, it would largely be like, very focused on conservation values, and a lot of the
That is
benefits
not playing,
should,
that is not
should
calling rock stars and playing loud music.
yeah, I mean, they could be they could be music in it. I don't know. I haven't envisioned this myself, but yeah, the conservation value should be like very deeply rooted, and also I think a lot of the benefits should like go to the communities, to the members that have like, living in that particular area. So this was something that came up through like the discussions that we were having during the workshop, and a lot of the community members were very keen to start something, and we are hoping to have more dialogues about around this and see how we can go about it.
Shilpita here writes that she is very excited to learn climbing.
Yes, she is.
Please just put her to a tree.
So Shilpita, like I mean, yeah, just to mention, I haven't mentioned my
Yeah.
colleagues here, like Shilpita and Sitaram Kejang, who are from Baksa, and also Sikandar from Latpanchar. No? So a lot of the work and a lot of the things that I'm talking is the collective effort of all of us working in. Of course, we have Aprajita Datta and Archinda.
Dr. Datta is the OG. Um, I met Sitaram and Shilpita in Baksa last year. This guy who asked, Shoranil, he's my brother. So he was there
Okay.
with me. And we saw great hornbills drive away wreathed hornbill pair.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yes.
Yeah, we see a lot
Uh,
of that.
I was sad because I wanted to photograph the wreathed hornbills. So,
Okay.
yeah.
You should come again
Ankit,
then.
yes, I plan to. I mean, we are privileged that you have joined despite your terribly weak
I'm
health.
sorry, I have a very, very terrible cough.
Yeah. Ankit asks, how do you make the local people understand the importance of hornbill conservation?
They already do. They already understand the importance.
Do everybody understand?
Most people, yes. At least in North Bengal, that's my experience. That's been my experience from lot of my interactions that I've had, not just through the surveys, but just casual interactions with people. There is no reason for them not to conserve hornbills.
Uh, uh, Arun Gulati asks, is it probably not a human attributable intelligence, survival instincts? I think this is a Arun, please correct me if I'm wrong. This question is more towards eating protein when a child is born. Chitra Mishra Sharma asks, want to know more about HNAP?
Sorry,
would you like to answer that?
Yeah, so it's a community-based conservation program that's been running for over 12, 13 years now. It's based out of a place outside the Pake Tiger Reserve in Arunachal Pradesh, and what it does is it is built on this model of shared parenting, where we have a lot of members from the local Nishi tribe who are the nest protectors, and so they identify, locate hornbill nests and monitor them, do all the the research part of it, monitoring and all of it, and then they conserve and protect these hornbill nest trees. Then at the same time, we also have a lot of individuals and institutions that donate to adopt these nests. And so the fund that comes in to the HNAP is used to employ the nest protectors and do a lot of other welfare work in the villages around these important hornbill habitats.
Swarnava asks a question. I believe it is Swarnava Nandi. I'm not sure. How sustainable do you think conservation of hornbill is as a full-time profession? How do you feel about future generations taking part in such conservation roles based on how sustainable it is for them?
Sustainable in the sense, I think every job has its own set of challenges. It can be sustainable if you are committed, I guess, to it. But it's very fulfilling. Yeah, it's extremely fulfilling. And in terms of sustainability, I can say that there are many areas of research that still needs a lot of exploring. So you can go on for years. There's still a lot of scope of work here.
Pankaj Kumar asks, request places where you observed hornbills. Maybe I formed the question a bit differently. Of the 5 hornbills, where can people go observe, if not photograph, these hornbills?
People are welcome to photograph. Sorry, I don't know if you got me wrong, but I have nothing
No,
against
no.
photography.
I mean, yeah, I
Yeah,
am more
so
into observing them. Yeah,
yeah. So for the rufous-necked hornbill, definitely Lakpanchar.
yeah.
You will get to see them year round and get to see them at very close quarters. It's a very 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 good place to see the rufous-necked hornbill. Rongtong and Shivkola and Sipaidura, they're also very good areas for the great hornbill
Great
and
hornbills.
also the grey hornbill. Yeah. Then for the wreath hornbill, fortunately, unfortunately, it's the Buxa Tiger Reserve. Buxa Tiger, we don't see the wheat hornbill more western from Buxa Tiger Reserve. So Buxa is kind of the westernmost, the point of its distribution range. But we have had some incidents of seeing wreath hornbill in Nagpanchar as well. The only thing about some of these areas is we get to see them because we have permits to work in these forests and we get to access a lot of the forest areas which tourists may not be able to. But in Buxa also, if you go to Jayanti, like the Jayanti Forest Village, then you have areas like Lepchaka, Buxa Fort areas. You have very high chances of seeing, in fact, all 4 species, the rufous-necked hornbill, the oriental pied hornbill, the great hornbill, and the wreath hornbill. I can't hear you. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. What you were saying
Arun
something.
mentions, do answer my question about bird ringing, but I'm not able to find his question on bird ringing. So I just ask him to ask the question one more time. There is a
Sure.
question from Divya. When you talk about community conservation, you said there's not much conflict, but they are sometimes hunted for meat. Has there been any reduction in poaching hunting for meat over time? And is there any understanding if this is mainly because of the laws or because of community conservation?
Yeah, like I think I've mentioned this in the conversation earlier. In North Bengal, particularly, there's not been many instances of hornbills being hunted or poached, and so for that reason, I said that the conflict is less. There have been few incidences where the Oriental pied hornbill specific, has been like known to be poached or hunted, but very few in numbers. And yeah. Sorry, what was the follow? What was the question that followed that?
Is there any understanding if the fall of poaching, either in northeast of India or in north of Bengal, is because of the laws or because of community conservation efforts?
Both, I
What is
think.
the cause?
Both,
Okay,
both.
both.
Yeah, it'll be a combination of both. Sometimes one more than the other, but largely both.
Do you find that in North Bengal much?
Is he talking about bird ringing in the sense of tagging birds or catching birds?
Do you? His question is: do you do any bird ringing activities or only field observation? So I believe it
Mostly
is
only
tagging
field
them.
observations. Yeah.
Only
So
field
we,
observations.
some of our senior like scientists in Arunachal have tagged some birds to understand their home range and all. But that was in Arunachal. In North Bengal, so far we haven't. It's mainly observations.
Okay. We'll not take any more questions. This was a fantastic conversation so far. I know you have not quantified what success would look like in 2040, but by 2040, you would have given 21 years of your life to Hornbills, right? What does success look for you? And what keeps you hopeful about the future of Hornbills, that this is going to be a success? What, according to you, are indicators, early in early indicators? So suppose I am committing 15 years of my life standing today. After 15 years, I'm going to be a certified old person, right? So what are the early indicators that suggests that this is going to be a success?
I mean,
What keeps you just,
yeah,
yeah,
for me
anything
personally, I
around it?
think success for me would just be like, walking the same forest and continuing to hear the calls of these hornbills and, hearing the flight, the sound of their flight above the canopy. I think for me, I would want to continue like, hearing these sounds like, 15 years down the lane. Also, sorry, what was it that you asked after that? What was?
What keeps you hopeful? What are the early
What keeps me
indicators
hopeful?
that
I
suggest
think
that
what
it's
keeps
going to
me
be a
hopeful is
success?
just like, like I think I've mentioned this a couple of times, but I would still like to say that, there is just a lot of interest and love for hornbills in North Bengal. I've interacted with many people over the years, like, and there's just like, every time you talk about hornbills, like, people are very fascinated. They are very enthusiastically, they'll share information about hornbills. Now
People
we
have
have
been
like,
interested even
children.
5, 7 years back, but the numbers are still dropping. I mean,
I
how are
mean, we
you
don't know if the
relating
numbers are dropping.
people's?
We don't have any baseline to say numbers are dropping. At least I'm talking about North Bengal strictly.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
North Bengal.
Yeah, I'm talking about North Bengal. And so, like, in like, especially in Buxa, where we do the annual, like, nature education program for schools. And also, like, Shipita and I, we live in one of the villages there. So we have a lot of interactions with the kids there. So, like, in the evenings, there are these children who come to us and, tell us about, oh, they sighted the great hornbill in this part of the village. They heard the call this morning. So we get a lot of like, information about hornbills. The minute we enter the village, we have like so many people coming to us, sharing information about hornbills, sightings or, calls. And I think all of that gives us a lot of hope. So
Do
it's
you want
definitely like,
Hornbills to be a part of school curriculum?
oh, I would love that. Yeah.
Do you also
Hornbills
want to
are.
make
So when we talk
Hornbills
about
are?
hornbills, we are not restricting ourselves to just a few species, right? We also talk about the habitat. We also talk about the importance of a good habitat for hornbills, and a good habitat would not only support hornbills but a lot of other wildlife as well. So we're just
Yes.
using hornbills as like a
A
key
tool.
species. Tool, yeah, key like a flagship species where we
Hmm.
want to contribute and want people to be like, yeah.
Say
Sorry, something is happening to my internet, I think.
in the next 5 years, would you like to expand to, say, Assam, the Dehing Patkai area where
So
you have
NCM
brown
has already
hornbills
worked a lot in being Bhatkai on the brown hornbill.
with
Aparajita,
an
and we
action
had
plan?
another colleague. With an action plan, I don't know, but we do have plans for Arunachal Pradesh in the coming year. So yeah, we've already been working in some of these states, and a conservation action plan will also require it has to be something that is
People driven.
of requirement at a particular stage, and so it takes time to come to this point. And yeah, it's not something that you would just want to get into without having the information or the knowledge of whether it is even required in the first place.
So this is what I have gathered from this discussion. I will not. I'll in my summary. I'll not cover everything, but some key aspects. That for such a conservation action plan to happen, there has to be multiple ticks. People have to be interested in conserving. People need to love that species. Uh, there needs to be researchers who can provide information, who can observe. There has to be an economic aspect to it as well, and it has to be very convincing as an entire project. North Bengal, under your guidance and guidance of other um, com- community people, other stakeholders, Dr. Datta, who has devoted more than 20 years of her life to hornbills, um, have been successfully pushing this to a point where we have a conservation action plan. Did I get that correctly?
Yes, largely yes, but I also want to bring it at this point. I don't know if you covered it, but you know, I wouldn't say that we are the only ones who've pushed for this. I mean, for like the whole conversation around hornbill conservation. It was probably always there. It was just not
Of
probably
course.
documented and highlighted. Because
Yeah.
if you go to these communities, people have had very good information, natural history observation of these hornbills. So there is a folk tale about hornbills, which describes the altitudinal migration of three hornbill species in Mahananda. So it's these folk tales have been passed on through generations. So people have observed hornbills, their behavior. So I wouldn't largely say that we've driven most of it, but I guess we are at a point where we would like to facilitate some of these conversations going ahead.
And your action plan largely focuses on enabling different stakeholders and
Yes.
encouraging them to also take the thing up. It's not just Nature Conservation Foundation or Nature Mates trying to push through this, but enabling this, making this a platform where different stakeholders could come on board and contribute to this the way they want in
Yes.
their own capacities.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of the stakeholders is definitely the forest department, researchers, bird photographers who also
Yeah.
except for running towards the bird like a bull, uh, can also give you
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
details of how many birds have been there.
Yeah.
Nature
They help.
guides, local
Yeah.
people, all form stakeholders in this journey.
Yes.
And in the next 15 years, you're looking forward to an all inclusive approach into developing this ecosystem in North Bengal.
Yeah. A lot of collaborations, and having built this entire community of people across different sections of the society, coming together by this love for hornbills. I guess that's what success would look like.
Karishma, I wish you all the best.
Thank
And
you.
you know that we all are there in our own capacities to assist you uh, to achieve your success. This
Thank
is
you.
an
Thank you so much. It's
incredible
really nice talking to you.
conversation. And I'm sure that this talk will be archived by a lot of people.
Thanks. Thank you so much for
Thank,
having me.
thank you for joining in. Bye bye.
Bye.